Please now welcome Reverend Dorothy Blanford as she speaks to us on Forever Young, on the journey from aging to saging.
I have a mic, yes, thank you. Thank you, Reverend Day. That was the most eloquent introduction I think I've ever had. So what do you think? Can we stay young at heart as this journey lifetime journey that we're on? I believe so. But I really believe, too, that it needs a bit of help from us. And in the next short time that we're together, I just want to cover 3 topics. I have a bookmark of others. I wrote the MBA on it, and they're on the table. But just want to talk on the top 3 from all the research I did and all the wise sages from youngest to centenarians. And that is being true to ourselves. Letting go of regrets and our waking moments. Some years ago, my nephew gave me a book by John Kabat-Zinn, and it was Wherever You Go, There You Are. Great title. And Zinn went on to say, you're the author of this amazing story of your life. And what's the title? What chapter are you at? And have you got an intention for the rest of the chapters? But then Zinn emphasized, he said, no, it's not about your amazing bio, and I've read the bios, and I know we've all got them. But he said, I want to know, what do you value? Are you living your values? Are you being true to yourself? Are you being the real you? Sometimes we're not, and for very good reasons. I believe that fairy stories have great underlying meaning, and my favorite of all time is the Velveteen Rabbit. And that wonderful, lovable Velveteen Rabbit, it just desperately wants to be real. And so he goes to the wise sage of the nursery and the skin horse, and he said, how do I become real? Will it take a long time? Will it hurt? And the skin horse says, it can take a long time. And yes, sometimes it hurts. And so Celtic, beautiful Anya, Celtic singer, composer, in her song Pilgrim, she asked, Pilgrim, will you take the journey to find out who you are? It's a long road to find that out. And I embarked on this journey 2 years ago with a pilgrimage to Ireland with the Sacred Art of Living and Dying. And against every logical sense in my mind, and the very first night, my roommate told me about this Aging to Saging program based on a book by Rabbi Zalem Shachter Shalomi. I knew why I was on the journey. And I knew, most likely, it would be the focus of my life going ahead. And it appears to be so. So then we would ask ourselves, why in the world wouldn't we just, it should be natural to be true to ourselves. And perhaps some of the reasons are, boundaries. I have certainly relate to that one. Another is perhaps not being able to say no. And I do relate to that one, you know. And we know when we're sort of a whirling dervish workaholic, as I was, I think someone asked me to do something, I can do that, sure, I'll do that. And then we wonder, and I certainly wondered why I don't, as the Irish saying goes, a minute to bless myself. And so it is just taking that time and knowing who that real me is, being true to myself. And just winding up on this particular first point, there's a wonderful quip attributed to Dr. Bernie Siegel, who brought prayer into the operating room. And he said, be who you is, not who you isn't. Because if you isn't who you is, why you is who you isn't. And if you isn't who you is, who is you? And so, you know, let's be the isness of who we are. And, you know, and being able to say no when we know that it's being kind to ourselves. I saw an interview last year sometime with actress Ollie McGraw on Oprah. She was 70 at the time, and she said that was her greatest challenge, and she was only getting it right then. I've just moved, and my neighbour's a very kind person, and she keeps asking me to do things, and then just on a Sunday she asked me if I'd go to this luncheon, and I said, oh, Faye, thank you so much, but no, thank you. I was so proud of that. I thought, Blanford, you've arrived. You've made it finally, you know. So then moving to my second point, carrying a heavy load of regrets. And a beautiful man I conversed with, Dr. John Izzo, wrote a book some years ago on the 5 secrets you must discover before you die. And he put it out to people from 60 to up, and he asked them, what would you say to your younger self or a younger person about living a meaningful life and dying happy? He had thousands of responses, and he interviewed a couple of hundred and broke it down to the 5. And number 1, be true to yourself, tight on its heels. Number 2, leave no regrets. Now, does that mean we've got to do everything in our bookmark, in our bucket list? No, not at all, not at all. But it does mean discernment. And so, you know, as my backpack carried with, I could have done that. No, I should have done that. Now, why in the world didn't I do that? And just letting it go. I have a wonderful teacher that I studied, a practitioner through into ministry with Terry Shea, and he had a great saying he liked to trundle out every so often. He said, I have given up all hope of a better yesterday. And isn't that true? We know we've only got this very moment in time. But the great thing is, all those yesterdays, and perhaps all those oops roads, they brought us to this moment in time. And we're all here together. And that beautiful Dr. Masters, his vision 50 years ago. How could we ever regret anything in our life that brought us to this moment? And so it's just letting it go and saying, all right, I did the best I could at the time. And one of my favorite authors is Dr. John O'Donoghue. And he is, he died sadly about a couple of years ago at 52. And he was a priest in the wilds of the Connemara region of west coast of Ireland. And he loved being a priest, and he, as I said, it was for 19 years. But he said his archbishop kept trying to clip his wings. And John knew that he felt he had a book in him, felt he was a poet and a mystic, and he was. And so he, after great discernment, left the priesthood. His first book, it was Anam Cara. Anam Cara is Gaelic for soul friend. And it's a book of Celtic wisdom. And towards the end of the book, he's got this wonderful section on aging. And he said, aging can be this beautiful time, this rich time when we come to know ourselves, perhaps for the very first time. And then he goes on to say that releasing the heavy burden of regrets that we've carried with us and dragged behind us through stony fields for years. Now, of course, in Ireland, perhaps you know, all the fields are pretty stony, but you get his point. And I think it's a wonderful tribute to him that he wrote this book and left that wonderful message. So being true to ourselves, releasing regrets, whatever we did, this is the most precious moment in time. And it is the foundation for our next step and our next step. And, if we keep with the analogy of writing this story, this book of our lives, if we're stuck rereading what we've written, we just can't move on to the next chapter and the next. And so my third point then, which I feel is very important, is our waking moments. I think that they are the foundation, the very cornerstone for the rest of the day. Someone sent me an email the other day, if I can recall it, and I start each morning, I've done for a long time, with just thank you. I'm so grateful. I've come through the night. That wonderful 13th century Meister Eckhart, theologian, he said, if the only prayer you ever say in your life is thank you, it is enough. And so setting that, and that email, I think it's going to elude me that someone sent me, but the gist of it was that if you start each day with a grateful heart, that it just illuminates the rest of the day. And I really believe that. I believe then that sets us up, and then we can bring in what we want. And laughter is so important. Laughter, and that we have, we share laughter with others. It just lifts them up. And the most important thing is we can laugh at ourselves. And I do that quite a bit. I shake my head in wonderment. But wonderful C.S. Lewis, he was also Belfast-born, Northern Ireland. He believed that it was never too late to dream a new dream or set a new goal. And I had a wonderful friend, and she was a client too, and she was in her 90s. We journeyed together until she made her transition in fact, I dedicated my MBA to her for her 96th birthday, and she just, a few days before, then she left us. But every week, a couple of times a week, we would, she'd get herself tucked into bed in this care home, and then she'd phone me, and we'd always have something to laugh about. Only made sense to the two of us, you know. But then, and I'd have a story, and I like to feel that we had one a few hours before she left, and I like to feel she left with a smile on her face. But speaking of never too late, I said to her one time, now, actually, she was just a little lady, and her name was also Dorothy, and her initial was also B. But I said to her, now, is there anything, she was about 94 then, 95 now. I said, is there anything that you want to do that you haven't done? And let's talk about it. And she says, I'd like to be singing in the seniors choir. And I said, right. Well, let's figure this one out. And we did. And so she joined the choir, the seniors choir, and she was in it a couple of years. She loved it. It just lifted her right up. And I'll tell you the wonderful thing. So never be afraid of the years going on, because the choir master would say, she said, all right, okay, how many of you over 90 here? All these hands shot up. They were as proud as could be. It was lovely to see. It was lovely. And so she did that. And another role model in my life is a wonderful woman. I've started listening to my intuition now. I felt I had to go to this lunch and meet her. And her name was Olga Kotelko. She's written a book, The OK Way to a Healthy, Happy Life. She was also 95, almost 96 at that time. And when she was a school teacher in Saskatchewan, and came to the coast at 77, the age that I am now. So it's never too late for a new beginning. She took up track and field. And she won, honest to goodness, in her life she won 750 gold medals. Now, mind you, in the end, there weren't too many people competing with her, but regardless, she did it. She did it. And she was wonderful. I actually have one of her medals over my mirror, so it's a gold one. So it's never too late. I've had so many new beginnings and restarts. It was like an elevator going up and down, and I used to have this expression. I have it today, actually. It's the first day of the rest of my life, and so it is. And so let me just sum up that let's be true to ourselves, so true, and know what that is. And maybe take time out on a retreat if need be. And let those regrets go. As I said, they've gone. Yesterday's gone. But we can only move forward. And doing that, laughter, stay curious. Robin Sharma has a wonderful expression. I get his emails, and he said, be the noticer. I mean, look at a little blade of grass coming through a crack in the sidewalk. Isn't it courageous? And that's the whole thing about this journey. It is a courageous journey. There's no two ways about it. But it's personal to each of us. What terrifies the daylights out of me would be the bravest thing for you. But that's all right. And that's, as Dr. Master just said, we're all one. We know that. And in this wonderful, wonderful journey, and Dr. Masters reminded us so many times, that kingdom of heaven is within. And I believe that this aging, wisdom, saging journey is an inside-out journey. How great it is that we stay young at heart. And so I say to you, from my heart to yours, 100,000 blessings, and I thank you for the privilege of being able to share these thoughts with you. I thank you.